What's up, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this segment of For the People podcast. Of course, I am your humble host, Niko House. And today, I had to talk about this situation in DC. I don't know what the hell Trump got going on out there. I feel like I've been seeing a lot of people not taking this as seriously as they should take it. Of course, I've seen conservatives basically pretending like this is actually about crime, which is hilarious because that would be like pretending the crackdowns after January 6th was actually about some kind of revolution or whatever I want to say. What the what was it? That they were trying to overthrow the government. They were trying to coup the government. No, it wasn't an insurrection. And the justification that was used for Joe Biden to crack down was a lie. Just like the justification we're seeing right now being used by Trump and his administration to crack down in DC is also a lie. There have been those responses, but then there's also been the Democrat liberal response. They call everything fascism. And I guess technically, they are right. This is fascism. However, this is fascism that they partially enabled. This is fascism that they set the stage for. And they also negate the fascism that they have participated in up until this point, right? So the overall response that I've seen from this, outside of the activists that are on the ground who actually know what's going on, have been piss poor, and I believe that they haven't really been well thought out. I've seen a few people, like my good friend Sabby Savs, my good friend Afeni, a few people have come out and actually started talking about the things that we should be worried about, considering the facts that we have available to us. For example, if this is really about crime, why are we addressing crime in a city that isn't even in the top 30 on the most dangerous cities, in the most the most crime-ridden cities? We're going to talk about that in a second. I'm going to tell you exactly why. Are we seeing a testing ground? Right? Things like that. Are we witnessing a pattern? And of course, the question that's probably already easy to answer, is this really just another distraction from Epstein? Yeah, probably. But let's go ahead and first of all, figure out this is really about crime, because the initial claim for all of this, right? Because this is a big deal. This isn't just the police getting more weapons, doing more patrols. That would be kind of like run-of-the-mill stuff, whether it be Republican or Democrat. But this is the police, DC Metro Police. This is the FBI running operations, doing patrols with police for the very first time in history. This has never happened before. And then on top of that, we have seen the National Guard called in. All of a sudden, the National Guard has the ability to detain people. We have never seen that before, ladies and gentlemen. That's not a thing. Okay. So let's check out if this crime claim that we've heard so much about is actually valid. So it turns out that Newsweek, which is a conservative, by the way, a conservative publication, actually decided to do a little piece about this. Full list of America's most dangerous cities as Trump cracks down on DC. This was done on August 11th. So since President Trump has said several cities across the country could face federal action after he declared a public safety emergency in Washington, D.C., here's a look at some of the nation's cities experiencing the highest rates of violent crime. Why it matters. Trump on Monday announced that 800 National Guard troops would be sent to the nation's capital to reestablish law and order and public safety. He invoked federal authority to take over the Metropolitan Police Department, citing special conditions of an emergency nature under District of Columbia's Home Rule Act. Those of you who don't know, and I'm sure most of you do, Washington, D.C. isn't a state. But outside of the fact that they lack certain overarching authority that a governor would have in that situation. Because it is not a state and they don't have a governor, the president and Congress oftentimes get to overrule things done by the city council and the mayor. That actually happened under Biden. Even though Biden claimed he supported statehood, he actually killed measures that would have been steps towards statehood. So unfortunately, Trump does have a legal right to do what he is doing, as long as Congress doesn't oppose him. And given that Democrats shit the bed this last election, of course they're going to support him because Republicans run Congress. So he warned that efforts to address crime will go further, naming cities like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Baltimore. Those cities all have something in common. They all reside in states that he didn't win, that Republicans don't have control over. That's an important thing to remember going forward. All right. So he goes, you look at Chicago. So you look at Chicago, how bad it is. You look at Los Angeles, how bad it is. We have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore, Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore there. Yeah, you can tell whenever somebody's writing speeches for Trump versus when he's actually talking. So let's look at this. Below are the 30 U.S. cities with at least 100,000 residents that had the highest number of crimes against people per 100,000, according to the latest FBI report. Now, this is on August 11th. So this is the latest FBI report. So this is recent. Okay. Memphis, Tennessee. Interesting. Cleveland, Ohio. Toledo, Ohio. Little Rock, Arkansas. Peoria, Illinois. Springfield, Illinois. Detroit, Michigan. Akron, Ohio. Beaumont, Texas. Rockford, Illinois. Evansville, Indiana. Dayton, Ohio. Nashville, Tennessee. Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Springfield, Missouri. Chicago, Illinois. Salt Lake City. Actually, that one kind of surprised me a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. Springfield, Massachusetts. North Charleston, South Carolina. Corpus Christi, Texas. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Albany, New York. Buffalo, New York. Albany kind of surprised me. Buffalo, yeah. Kansas City. Shreveport, Louisiana. Baltimore, Maryland, finally. Houston, New Haven, Connecticut, Las Cruces, New Mexico, and Lansing, Michigan. Now, I don't know if y'all notice a pattern on this list, but that list is principally filled with cities that reside in states that Donald Trump and the Republicans won. You hear what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying? That is not a coincidence. He said Chicago, Illinois. Chicago, Illinois falls way down on that list. Way down. Their number, Chicago, Illinois, is 16, ladies and gentlemen, which that kind of surprised me too, because Chirac is Chirac, but crime supposedly has been improving there. Baltimore has had a steep fall in crime, especially violent crime, especially murders, because their mayor has implemented several policies that actually target at-risk communities, that give them opportunities rather than throwing them in jail. Okay? So if this is about crime, why are we sending the National Guard, ladies and gentlemen? Why are we having the FBI and the DC Metro Police work together like there's really a national emergency happening in DC when DC didn't even, according to this conservative publication that pulled the most recent FBI data, Washington, DC isn't even top 30. doesn't even make top 30, bro. This is called waste my time o'clock. DC does have crime. We're aware of that. However, we do know that the crime in DC is primarily a product of poverty. We know that. Obviously, that big, beautiful bill did not a damn thing to address that. But you want to call up the National Guard, give the National Guard the ability to detain individuals. Question for you, ladies and gentlemen. How do y'all think that's going to go? Because last time I checked, unless it's a military police officer, which if you call up 800 of them, more than likely it's not going to be military police. It's going to be a mixture. How many National Guardsmen do you know are aware of the processes and procedures to arrest people? Like, I don't know, reading Miranda rights? How many National Guardsmen do you know how to read Miranda rights? So, do you think that could be a problem going forward? When you have National Guardsmen who never had the ability to arrest people, arresting people without even knowing the actual law and not even knowing the most basic components of procedure when it comes to arresting somebody, like reading Miranda rights. Yeah, probably got a lot of lawsuits on the way, bro. And the crazy part is the way that it's going to go down, because Trump is this is his last term. It's likely that Trump isn't even going to feel the consequences of these lawsuits because they're going to take about 2-3 years. Going to be, appeal. There's going to be so many of them. If the situation continues the way it is, then he's not going to feel the results of the problems that he caused. So it's not about crime, but it is important to talk about who's going to be affected by this. And some of these people have kind of made it obvious who they would like to be affected by this. I want y'all to see this clip by Benny Johnson. No, matter of fact, before we watch the clip by Benny Johnson, I want you to look at this clip that I found on Twitter. Because the cops aren't going to go into the neighborhoods where the rich people live, where the rich kids live, where the politicians live. We know exactly where they're going to go, right? We know exactly where they're going to go.
No, I live right here. Okay. Cool. It's a cigarette. All right. Did y'all get a call or something right here?
No, so we're doing checks, keep everybody safe down here, right? Have you heard of the federal surge that Donald Trump's putting out?
No.
Right. You don't follow like Code 3 or anything like that? No. All right. So yeah, Trump's got all federal agencies kind of coming together for 7 days and going out, trying to stop the violent crime, all kind of stuff. So we're out here contacting people, talking to them, right? Quality of life offenses, smoking, drinking in public, right? Can't happen outside, right?
Bro's on a stoop, dog. Smoking and drinking in public can't. First of all, DC weed has been decriminalized, so that was kind of weird. He's like smoking and drinking in public. He's like, I'm on my own stoop. I'm on my private property. He's not walking on the sidewalk. I know that a lot of states. I'm not sure about DC when it comes to drinking. I know a lot of states. Some places you can drink on your front porch. Some places you can't. Like the limit is actually. Well, some states you can't, like you can't drink on your front porch nor the sidewalk. Some states you can drink on your front porch because it's your private property, which actually makes sense because if you're drinking in your front lawn, like if you're doing a barbecue, right? Everybody's not in the house, so obviously. But it's like you can see these cops were sent and they were told go find something to do. Now, when a cop is told to go find something to do, when the cop is given a quota to me. Where are they going to go? To the poorest areas. And this is Washington, D.C., the poorest areas. Who principally resides in the poorest areas? Minorities, and specifically Black people. And I know this guy's just trying to do his job, right? I'm not a fan of cops. I'm not a fan of authorities. But I understand this guy does have a job to do. So I'm not trying to, he got called up to do this job. And he's not being aggressive. I appreciate that. I commend him for that. I also commend the guy who was smoking for not amping, because I'm not gonna lie, if it was me, I probably would have amped. Like, bro, what the fuck are you doing here on my porch, telling me that I can't smoke my cigarette on my porch or drink on my porch, and you weren't even called. There was no disturbance, so you're just up here just to bother me. Go bother somebody else. I commend him for that. However, this interaction should have never taken place, because it was an opportunity for problems. It was an opportunity for problems to present itself, and it could have caused unnecessary conflict.
Most people know that. So we're contacting people, trying to advise them of the law so they learn, right? And then if there's other stuff going on where it turns into there's multiple agencies of somebody, there's shooting and things like that. So there's extra hands as well, right? So we're just out here trying to inform people and educate people. It's not like we're trying to just go grab people and ruin someone's life over a joint or something like that, all right?
I only asked because when you walked up at the moment you walked up, you only had eggs.
Yeah, well, it smelled like the odor of marijuana, burnt marijuana in the air, right? And you're the only guy that had something lit in your hand, and I didn't flash you, so I didn't realize it was just a cigarette. So that's on me. I appreciate you understanding and not getting chippy with me. All right, so.
Like I said, I don't know about that whole smell like marijuana thing. Well, if it smells like marijuana, it's because Washington, D.C., it's decriminalized. I don't know if I've been around Washington, D.C. lately, but a lot of places smell like marijuana. It's D.C. Boy, you think that the majority of those staffers sold their souls to work in D.C. and is surviving that environment without being high? Yeah, right, okay. But no, seriousness, like I said, this guy, I'll give credit where credit is due. He's like, yeah, man, I'm not trying to destroy your life over a joint. Like, I'm just kind of like, he kind of is like, bro, like they just kind of called me and I was told to come here. And I was told to go find something to do. This other cop over here in the corner, the one on the right, the black cop, that boy looked like, man, this shit's whack. Like, I don't know why we're doing this. Like that's what it looks like. But the dude, he's like, what? Like, I don't understand. Like, why would you? You're the only one with something in your hand. It smells like marijuana. It's like, okay, and it's decriminalized here. So
just know, right? Learn, teach, tell your boys, like, yo, everybody's out. From FBI to police.
So they go see
So do your thing. Let them know. Don't be smoking outside. Don't be drinking outside. Because Donald Trump is tired of it. People come to visit. I didn't know that. You didn't know.
So I can appreciate that too, right? Because the reality of the situation is, he is right. It's wrong that they're there. It's wrong that they were targeted. But for him to be like, yo, tell your people, please, like everybody's outside right now. Like, it's for real. Like, because if those guys really didn't know that, which I'm sure some people really didn't. If you got other stuff to do, you got bills to pay, you got work places to be, places you working all day. Like, you ain't got time to be looking at the news. So like, I can appreciate that too, right? I'm not even gonna be cool. However, look at where they went to. They went to the black neighborhood. They went to the black people. If like I said, DC, if you've been there since they legalized marijuana, there's a lot of parts of DC that smell like marijuana. You think that they're walking up to a politician or somebody in a nice suit or in a nice neighborhood trying to figure out if it's a joint or a cigarette, especially if they're sitting on their front porch? Com certeza no. Absolutely not. No. These are the areas that are going to be targeted because they've been told these are the people that are committing the crimes. Now, obviously, the cliche of all cliches, which is funny because in this case, one of those situations where it's the cliche because it's true, would be if you want to go solve crime, especially violent crime, go arrest every congressman in the Capitol. You're going to get about 98% of the violent crime. Hell, you're not just going to stop violent crime in the States. You're going to stop violent crime around the world. You're really worried about that. But look at where they went. Look at who's going to be affected. Okay. Now, there are some people who are fully, I'm saying this, and somebody's going to be like, oh, he's race hustling, he's race baiting, da-da-da-da-da. Nah, there are some people who know who's going to be affected by this, and that's exactly who they want to be affected by it. Listen to Biddy Johnson, his dumb ass.
President Trump is doing God's work by refederalizing D.C. By the way, D.C. was set up as a federal city. It's in the Constitution. It's how our founding fathers intended it. These laws are still fully enforceable. They've never been rescinded or amended. President Trump and the executive, through the House of Representatives, controls Washington, D.C. President Trump controls budgets. House of Representatives and the Speaker of the House is technically and historically the mayor, the lead of D.C.
I don't think that Donald Trump controls the budgets, but okay.
That still remains on the books. What happened to DC?
Also, just to be clear, law does not, like, just because something is legal does not make it morally or ethically justified. Like, you can have legal fascism. Right now, the president, quote unquote, of Syria is a terrorist dictator. He just sent his security forces into a hospital and they executed hospital staff and harassed and assaulted hospital staff. And that was technically legal. That does not make it ethical. So I just want to be clear. I don't, when people point to what's legal and what's not legal, I feel like they like to leave that type of stuff out. Like, yeah, legal, slavery once again was legal. Discrimination and segregation was legal. Like, come on, bro. So if we're going to point to, like, just because something is legal does not make it not fascist. Like, it still can be fascist, my guy.
Especially during the civil rights period, was that protesters that were bussed up here stayed here. The city was burned to the ground. This happened during massive riots throughout the 60s and 70s. Mass swaths of the city were torched and were never really rebuilt. And so what President Trump is doing is reasserting control of not only our nation's capital, but truly the seat of Western civilization. It's one final little note here that kind of blends outside of the personal, which is that Washington, D.C. is a representation of the work of your forefathers and mine. It is, by every measure, a very beautiful city.
No, not, I guess technically, yeah, like the work of somebody's forefathers, but it wasn't yours, my guy. Washington, D.C. was built by slaves. So like, you're like, your forefathers and mine? No, I think they were, it's my forefathers. I mean, your peoples was there, but they weren't doing the same thing. My forefathers and your forefathers weren't doing the same job, right? So let's be clear about that. That beautiful city that had parts of it burned to the ground. Those beautiful monuments that y'all like to take pictures in front of it, like that wasn't y'all. We built that shit. But all right.
Texturally, it is a sacred city. It is a sovereign place with the monuments to great men and women who've sacrificed far more than you or I could ever dream for this country. It must be preserved because the peoples of Earth come here by the millions per year in order to witness the success or failures of our systems. And if you are a proud...
Mostly failures. Let's just be clear. Like, it's mostly failures. People go to New York, the nicest parts of New York, the nicest parts of LA, the nicest parts of, Florida, maybe Chicago. And they'll be like, yeah, man, look at how great the US is. And I'm like, we literally have states that are called flyover states because nobody wants to go there. Like, nobody wants to drive through. You ever driven through Illinois? Have you ever driven through Indiana? It's upsetting. It's sad. Have you ever driven? I mean, Alabama is literally considered a third world country. The majority of the state is considered a third world country because of how poor it is. Like, it's hyperbole in order to justify fascism. Is this idea of American exceptionalism? Like to keep America great, we have to engage in fascism. We have to support it. Why? Well, because Trump supports it, and I get paid by supporting Trump. But also because America's so great, and millions of people come to like 4 cities to witness this greatness. Yeah, literally, like a million people come to 4 cities, 4 or 5 at the most. Do you understand how ridiculous that is for one of the wealthiest countries in the world? I could say the same thing about Brazil. the majority of visitors come to like, actually, there are probably more cities in Brazil that people go to. And they have way less money. Like Brazil as a country has far less money as far as the valuation of, you know, if you want to value it at USD, they have way less money than America does. But you got like Rio, you got Salvador, you got São Paulo. I mean, there's like, that's just 3 off the top of my head. You got, I mean, bro, there's like 5 or 6 cities here that people go to, and it's Brazil. And Brazil is nowhere near as developed as the U.S. And they didn't. And if Brazil developed, they didn't have the slide back that the U.S. had. Like, I don't like this. I hate this idea that people believe that the U.S. is somehow exceptional. We might have been at some point by hook or by crook, but what we are right now, what the U.S. is at this moment, is not exceptional. We are exceptionally bad. We are exceptionally good at deluding ourselves. I'm not, but these people are. They're exceptionally good at deluding themselves into believing the U.S. is exceptionally great at this very moment. Boy, you better go look at some videos on TikTok of China, Russia. At least they can keep their damn subways clean. Public transportation isn't going to break your wallet. China, you can own places and property tax and that shit ain't going to let the bank rob you. You can actually own stuff in China. In the US, boy, you lucky if you own your soul. Because if you don't own that house, that bank owns your house forever, even after you pay it off. You don't think so? Don't pay your property tax for a couple years.
Proud patriot, and you love this country, and you wish for it to be reflected honorably to the peoples of Earth, then Washington, D.C. must be swept clean. I believe entire neighborhoods probably need to be emptied, need to be bulldozed. I believe that there are places that are so crime-ridden and so infested that you just need to, like, you're just going to have to crack down. You're going to have to do the job, and you're going to have to get the crime out of Washington. That's my personal experience. Don't believe the bullshit that you hear online from some reporters. Oh, crime's down in D.C. Well, my infant nearly died in a drug fire after mass shootings.
Bro, that's a lot. I don't know what. His infant nearly died in a drug fire after mass shooting. What the? Where were you at that your infant nearly died in a drug fire, whatever the hell that means, after mass shootings? What is that? It's like it's like you just took all like the generic U.S. stereotypes, like drugs, bad infrastructure, and mass shootings, and just put it all in one thing and put his infant in the middle of it. Whatever, bro. Okay, you got it.
So no, DC is not safe. And I can tell you this as a matter of fact, it is one of the worst, most racist narco states and welfare states imaginable. In that neighborhood that I would walk every single day, racial epithets were screamed at us, rocks were thrown at us because we were white people. This city is a sunken place. It is an unsafe place. I mean, if that's what happens to me, imagine what happens.
What do they say? If you don't like it, then leave. You don't like it, Benny, then leave.
Happens to somebody who's like visiting here from a foreign country, right? It's
wow,
totally
now he cares about foreigners. That's so crazy. That's so wild. Bro, it's crazy how these conservatives switch up the argument so quick. At first, it's get everybody out that ain't from here. And now it's, well, what if somebody's visiting from a foreign country? How would they feel?
And wholly unsafe and a scar on the face of our country. And it must be healed. And President Trump is going about that heavy work.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, I wonder if Benny actually considered that these people might, first of all, it's like, are they really screaming racist stuff at you, bro? Like, is that really happening? Or are they saying we don't like Benny Johnson because Benny Johnson's a piece of shit? That's probably what happened, if I'm gonna be honest. Throwing rocks at you though, like, that part is kind of hard to believe. My infant nearly died in a drug fire after mass. Like, what the hell is that about? I don't know. I don't know if I'm buying that either. However, there probably are people that don't like Benny Johnson. They probably did scream shit at him, and Like, it's because Benny Johnson, you're a dick. But you notice, look at the cheering for fascism, right? Okay, let's talk about the reality. What is probably happening for real? I want to remind you all that Donald Trump and friends decided they wanted the federal government to work alongside Palantir. Palantir was going to create a system to streamline the data that they receive, the information that they receive about everybody. Everybody. Okay, now with that being said, they said they're going to work with the FBI, the DOJ, Department of Homeland Security. They already started working with police departments. They're going to work with ICE. Now, if you were to run this type of operation in California, like a full-fledged FBI, LAPD, which you wouldn't be able to do in this particular case, because they have like their own specific rules, and then have the National Guard get implemented, which you also wouldn't be able to do without Newsom's approval. You would have to go through the governor. Can't do it, can you? Illinois, same thing. Indiana, same thing. Texas will probably allow it, but you don't want to do that because then it's like painting a Republican state as a criminal state, right? Crime ridden. You don't want that. You want to pretend like it's all blue stuff. Okay, cool. So you do it in DC where you don't have to answer to anybody. You can bypass, restrictions that would normally be put in place by the state. So how do you test this Palantir system? This Palantir database. How do you test the efficiency and proficiency of this database? Will you claim it's about crime, even though it's not? Once again, Benny's talking about, oh, ignore all these. Ignore what? The literal FBI data? Because it's your people in charge of the FBI, conservatives. It's this. I just read from you guys a conservative publication that is talking about this, talking about that data from 2-3 days ago. If it's about crime, let's talk about the crime in the states that your people are running. So it's not that. Okay. So the best way to have a live action test is to blame it on crime and then have the agencies that are going to be using this streamlined data system via Palantir. You have them work together and see how it goes. See if it works out. Let's see how effective we are. Let's see who we can get. Let's see if it works. Because everybody forgot about that deal that was. We got to remember, y'all. What did we talk about with this immigration thing? The weird immigration raid, where he's like, yeah, we gotta go get those immigrants because they're a problem. Like, but you running up on immigrants with jobs. You going to their jobs? Those aren't the immigrants that are causing the problems. Yeah, some of them may have overstayed their visas and things like that. But if they went through a vetting process, got a job, they're working there, they don't have any problem with their boss. Like, the only reason you found those immigrants is because they're doing what they're supposed to do outside of the visa issue, which is like everybody has something going on in their lives. You know what I'm saying? Like, but if they're paying their taxes, they're reporting, their kids are going to school, they're signing the census and all that good shit. Like, bro, that's the only reason you found them is because they're doing their job or because they're doing what they're supposed to do outside of the visa issue. And some of them, a lot of the times, are trying to resolve the visa issue. It's just that it's expensive and the immigration process in the US is too convoluted. But what did we say back then? This is probably a test for that Palantir system. So fast forward. Okay, so we tested it with the ICE stuff because we already know that Palantir has worked with ICE. We know that they were working with ICE, they work with FBI, they work with DHS. Okay, so now let's see how it works with crime. But we got to do it in an area that we can actually get away with this. And I can actually have the FBI work with the Metro Police because you can't do that in other states without state government approval, local government approval. Can't get the National Guard involved without state approval. Yeah, it's a testing ground, guys. They're trying to see what they can get away with, and they're trying to see how effective this new Palantir system is. Duh. For real. Like, that's what this is about. Remember during COVID, everybody, a lot of states during those protests, they started implementing curfews. And I was like, this is going to be a problem because they're using the protests to undermine First Amendment rights. You get what I'm saying? Like they were putting out curfews before protests got violent. And I, living in Miami at the time, I witnessed a nonviolent protest get turned violent by the police. I was there. I saw it happen in real time. I witnessed nonviolent protests get turned violent by police. Then immediately there was like a curfew announced. Like they were waiting because they knew like that when they did the police shift change, it went from everybody was chill, relaxed. Police were even conversing. I mean, there were kids at these protests, literal kids. I remember seeing this mom in her scrubs with her 2 kids. And they were conversing with the police, and the police were like, yeah, no, this is a sad situation. I was like, man, this is what they're out here putting out curfews for? Oh, then you see the shift change police coming. They already out there in riot gear. Already out there in riot gear, guys. This is not hyperbole. Why is that? So the curfews come. And then it went from we have curfews because of protests to, well, we don't want to spread COVID. So now we're going to put curfews out because of COVID. We're trying to reduce the spread. That's not what y'all told us. Y'all told us it was because of X, Y, and Z, right? Yeah, nah, it was never about that. Now you're starting to see the game. They run these tests on society. They run these martial law tests. They run this test for Palantir. They're testing us. DC is just another testing ground. When Joe Biden locked down DC for like a year and some change after January 6th, help people without arraignments, help people without charging them, that was a test. Unfortunately, I would say the majority of the country failed. But, you know, conservatives they didn't figure it out. The reason I said they failed is because look, right after Joe Biden's administration, Trump is doing the same thing. Not in the same way, different justification, but same flavor of fascism. And they're like, yeah, we have to do this. But the Democrats say, yeah, we got to do this. It's about Palantir. It's about testing. It's about testing what the population will put up with. It's about seeing if we're paying close enough attention. It's about appeasing his donors. It's about appeasing the technocracy. That's what this is really about. Well, let us know what your thoughts are about this. Like this video, share this video, leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe. Help us hit 1 million subscribers. Follow us on Telegram, on X at Real Niko House, at Hotspot. Follow me on Instagram as well at Real Niko House. And always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.